It had been an ordinary Tuesday morning when Eliza received the phone call that would forever change her life. After 20 years of dedication to her job, she was laid off. Her employer, facing financial difficulty, had decided to cut back on staff. Eliza could have fought for her position, could have argued that she was invaluable to the company, but as she sat there, the words echoing in her mind, she felt something else, a sense of peace. Without a second thought, Eliza had made a decision that no one could have predicted. She had given her position to another employee, someone with children to care for, someone struggling. She knew she had enough savings to get by, but more importantly, she had a deeper calling, one that had been quietly growing for years. Her mother, Claire, had always been independent, but with age came frailty, and after her retirement, she had become more and more reliant on Eliza. Initially, Eliza juggled both work and caregiving, but now, the decision to leave her job meant she could fully embrace her role as her mother's caretaker. She didn't realize it then, but in that very moment, her life had already shifted into a beautiful, albeit challenging, new chapter. Years passed, and the challenges of caring for her elderly mother were both deeply rewarding and exhausting. Claire had never been an easy person to care for. She had always been proud, stubborn even. But Eliza loved her dearly, and every day she gave her best to make sure Claire was comfortable, well-fed and happy. But then, one day, something shifted. Claire began to forget things, small things at first, like where she placed her glasses or why she was in a room. But as months turned to years, the forgetfulness turned into something more frightening. Her memory deteriorated rapidly, and it became clear that Claire was suffering from dementia. There were days when Eliza felt completely lost. She watched her mother, once so sharp and so strong, now struggle to remember even the simplest things. She'd found herself facing challenges that no one prepared her for, and though her love for her mother never wavered, there were moments when she feared she was losing the woman who had given her life. Then, one day in the midst of another exhausting routine, Claire suddenly collapsed. The paramedics arrived just in time to save her life. Doctors told Eliza that her mother's heart had failed temporarily, but there was hope. A new pacemaker could give her 10 more years of life. Eliza was torn. She was grateful for the time, grateful for the gift of more moments with her mother. But she knew the new pacemaker wouldn't last forever. Her mother, now 98, was fragile, and the years of caregiving had taken their toll. Eliza couldn't help but wonder how much longer she could continue this journey. She'd managed to save little over the years. The cost of healthcare, medications, and special equipment for her mother had drained most of what she'd set aside. And now, with her mother's advancing age and health, the thought of funeral arrangements weighed heavily on her heart. But even in the midst of her fears, there was one thing that kept Eliza from falling into despair. She had never stopped trusting in God. Even when her mother's memory failed her, even when the bills piled up, even when Eliza couldn't see how she would make it through the next month, she held on to her faith. She prayed, not for things to be easier, but for the strength to face whatever came. She trusted that God would provide, that He would not forsake her, as He never had before. It wasn't always easy, and there were days when she doubted, but each time she felt the weight of the world on her shoulders, she would look at her mother's tired eyes and remember how much she had learned from this journey. Through all the hardships, she'd been given the most precious gift of all time. Time to care for the woman who had once cared for her. Time to love her mother as fiercely as her mother had loved her. And so, as Eliza faced the possibility of saying goodbye to the woman who had been both her guiding light and her greatest challenge, she didn't see just loss. She saw years of blessings in disguise. She saw her mother's love etched into every wrinkle, every sigh, every moment of laughter they'd shared in the quiet of their home. And in those quiet moments, when the fear of what was to come seemed too much to bear, Eliza whispered her prayer. God, you have not forsaken me. You have given me the strength to care for her, and I know you will continue to guide me, whatever the future holds. She couldn't see what was ahead, But she knew one thing for certain. She was never alone. Her faith would carry her through, as it always had. And in that faith, she found peace.